good evening, and welcome to the Joy of Connection. And I don't know if you can hear the fireworks in the background, but I can hear them. So if you're hearing the noise, it's all good. We've got two celebrations going on here in the UK and definitely here in the Midlands where we live. One is Diwali, which is an Indian celebration of light. I hope that's correct. If I'm not correct, please fill me in, somebody. And the other one is for tomorrow, the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes Day, when Guy Fawkes tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament and didn't succeed. So we celebrate by doing fireworks. I know it doesn't necessarily make sense, but that's what it is. That's what it is. Anyway, I just wanted to welcome you to the last episode of this season, but we'll be back in January. So don't worry, we'll be back with more and fun stuff. But you know, they say you should always save the best for last. So tonight we have Nicci Roach, who is a really wonderful woman with a great story. And I've entitled the story tonight, Love is Love is Love, because it really is about love. So without further ado, let's bring Nicci on to the screen. Hi, Nicci.
Cheryl, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Speak up just a little bit because I'm not
Yes,
hearing you.
I'm bringing you greetings from the US. How are you?
Okay, I'm great. I'm great. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on because we have a bit of a time difference going on here.
Yeah,
Our clocks went back on Sunday. I assume yours are going back in a few weeks.
on this
Do you know?
Sunday.
Oh, this okay. So we're only a week apart this year, but sometimes it's a couple of weeks. So sometimes I get that timing wrong. So I'm glad that we're live and we're getting it right. So welcome to the show. So
Good to be
without
here.
any further, oh, thank you. Without any further ado, please tell me, where are you from and where do you live?
Yes, I first I have to say for the invitation, and I am beyond excited to be here. I am
Oh,
bringing you greetings from the states, St. Louis, Missouri, where people are familiar with the Gateway, toasted ravioli. What else are we known for? Nelly the rapper and Tina Turner. A whole bunch of people are from out of here. Miles Davis, and I could keep Robbie from Sweetie Pies. All that's here in St. Louis.
wait. We just have to stop there for a minute. Did you say toasted ravioli or roasted ravioli?
Toasted ravioli. That's a thing here. So it's like a breaded appetizer that has seasonings, but on the inside it could be stuffed with spinach. It could be stuffed with beef and veal or chicken and turkey. Yeah, that's our thing here. And you dip it in marinara sauce. That's the
I guess I'm going to have to come out there and have a little visit because I'm a real foodie.
oh, you would love St. Louis for the food.
That sounds good. And I don't think I've been to Missouri, and I've been to many states, but I don't know if I've been to Missouri. I don't think so. But now we've got a
Well,
good
we'll
reason to we
coordinate.
can come and visit you.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen. So, you know, the show is called The Joy of Connection. And
Which
so
I
I
love.
wanted to ask you, thank you. Oh, just making me blush tonight. No, don't worry, guys. I'm only drinking water as well. I'm not even drinking tonight. Anyway, seriously, tell me, how did we connect? Do you remember that?
We had the opportunity to be connected through Mitra Gilliard, who is in Chicago. I spent a lot of time in Chicago, but she and my parents are good friends, our fathers, and because of that, we've had a chance to kind of grow up together. And now we're trying to be adults.
We all.
We keep in touch, but there's a lot of work that we have that crosses over when it comes to women empowerment and also just making great, healthy, powerful connections. And so she felt the need that we had to meet, and she did not disappoint. I'm just excited about what's to come.
Thank you. And likewise, I mean, our viewers are in for a great treat tonight because I think you've got an amazing story.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, tell me, and before we move forward, Mitra, if you're watching, which I'm sure you are, thank you so much for doing
Yes.
this for us. So thank you. Thank you. I forgot to tell you. And just a little side note, I don't know if you know, but I met Mitra in Spain.
She told me. And so we're actually trying to coordinate our schedules to come see you.
Yay! Sounds like a plan. Okay, now I'm really excited, really excited. So, part of the joy of connection is talking about connection. And one of the things that I always ask people about is what do you do for self love and self care? Because you're a busy woman. I mean, you've got a resume that is so impressive. I'm not even going to go here and reel everything off because it'll just sound like you're bragging, but we'll talk about some of the things that you're doing. But seriously, in terms of self love and self care, when do you even get the time? I think is the question I have for you.
So I have learned to just be intentional and make time. This year has not yielded the flexibility that I desired. However, I have very recent in this past month um, made time and just kind of press pause. But also, it wasn't necessarily my choice. It was my body, my attitude, just my mind state. Everything said you need to stop. And so I usually am against waiting until you have to do it, because you can't give what you don't have.
That's
And I'm
right.
in all of my roles, I'm giving out. And if I'm giving out but I'm empty, that could be not good. That could
Yeah.
lead to some unpleasant situations. So I have learned to make time. But what I do, one thing that I do, I will say, is on Saturdays, I will keep
Mm,
my phone off, the ringer off, or do not disturb on until like noon, and
that's great.
just kind of chill and lounge. And it may sound small, but you don't realize how attached we are.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
trying to not take my cell phone into the bedroom at
That's
night.
really good. That's really good.
Because what do? You do this, all through the night, right? So those are a couple of things that I've been trying. And of course, I can go into some other things with meditation and prayer time and that kind of things. Those are all a part. Those are woven into my days.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, in terms of you having your Saturday mobile break or cell phone break,
Yeah.
as we say in the States, do you ever sort of like, no one's really watching, so, or do you really, are you really able to just like, I'm just not looking at it? So just make sure it's dead, or like, how do you, because I know that I'm one of these people that's chilling. My phone may be over there, but I'm still sort of checking, like, oh, the light went on. Let me just see and respond, instead of just saying tomorrow, later, I'll get back to them.
I had to learn to set boundaries this year. And I'm
Mm,
not gonna say that I've been very disciplined in the past, but after this summer, I yeah. I, and then also because of COVID too, and its impact to where, what is priority? Um,
mm,
yeah, what's priority? And you can't, as they say, the peanut butter, you put the peanut butter on the bread and you spread it so thin to where you don't even taste it because it's so thin. If you keep spreading
mm.
it, and I think it's the same with life. You can't keep spreading it, then people don't get the best of you. So
Wow, what a phenomenal analogy. Seriously, I could feel that. I just went a little cold there. I really felt that. Yeah.
it's
It
true.
becomes so thin that you can see through it, and therefore it's no good.
And right, and we love it. I'm not a huge peanut butter person, but just the idea of it, like we want it on thick. We want to have the creamy part and the nuts and everything that it comes with, and we're cheating not only ourselves but those who we are called to serve. And because of that, that's a responsibility. So for me,
Yeah.
again, all of us, and on my platform, everybody's a leader and everybody has a role to play to contribute to this world, and we each have an audience that is dependent on us. And so with that and understanding that level of responsibility, and some of these people we won't even know, but
Exactly.
we, based off of our decisions, um, and those things that we do or fail to do, can cause someone to live or die. And I don't mean a physical death, but a spiritual or an emotional,
Mm.
psychological, and I don't take that lightly.
It's really beautiful. It really is. It really is. And one of our viewers tonight said, her name's Charlene. Charlene said, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yes,
And that's
Charlene.
so true.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Not good for you, not good for anybody any of the recipients. So I love that. I love that you've really carved out me time intentionally, as you said, because I think some of us have a schedule and we do things, but sometimes we're doing it mindlessly. You know, go to the gym, work out, read a book because I was told I need to read 10 pages a day, meditate because they say that's good, but it doesn't mean that you're doing it with intention.
Yeah.
So I love that you put that in there because that's so important. So thank you for sharing that. That's really great. It's really lovely. So, I mean, I was looking at your bio and
Oh,
I have here learning and leadership development practitioner.
yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, I know what it says here, but what does that really mean?
So it really, I ask a lot of questions when individuals want to sit and talk, or they're trying to accomplish a goal, whether that's personal or professional. Um, we sit, we talk it through. Um, I always think that we have the answers, most of the answers that we need. It's just a matter of talking it out.
Hmm.
For me, in this capacity, there is a lot of they use the word coaching. I don't see myself as a coach. I see myself as an educator. So it's all, every platform is a classroom for me. So
Mm,
it's a matter of me within a classroom. In my classroom, everybody's a student, but everybody's a leader, and everybody has a voice or lived experiences in which they are able to contribute. And
absolutely.
it's the diversity uh,
Mm,
amongst us that causes it to be that much more rich. And so for me to come in with my lens and my lived experience to partner with someone like yourself, or if we had a
right.
group here and we're all sharing and exchanging, it's a matter of me, I'm helping you navigate those different things,
Mm,
but also to see and identify where some gaps are in regards to things to consider, things to explore, and then take some risks. Consider the opportunities. Consider
yeah,
the what ifs and the why nots, and still throw it all against the wall and let's see what sticks. Right?
that's right. I love that. I think too many of us think about, you know, what we've been told we need to do, we have to do, and in what order we need to do it in, instead of just letting go of the things that don't serve us and just doing the things that feel right, seem right, look right. And if you do step one and step two, but step three isn't great, try step four, It's not the end of the world. So I think that's really amazing. And you also describe yourself as this, not describe, you are the special assistant to the president of the St. Louis University.
Yeah.
That sounds like a big job. I mean, what does that entail?
I don't know. No, just kidding. No, all jokes aside, when I tell you every day is different, and literally what I do on my platform, radio wise here in the STL, whether I'm in the classroom as a professor,
Hmm.
whether it's us, even in a spot such as this, it's the same thing in regards to like what I just mentioned earlier about the learning and development. Getting, I come, sometimes that's working with leaders from different parts, because we have an academic and a medical side to this research institution. And so I can be at any department, lending a hand, such as coaching, leadership to present to leadership, to the whole council, all the way to helping to conduct research on a specific topic, all the way to helping us consider and look at what some of our opportunities are. And I use opportunities instead of barriers or hardships, because it's an opportunity for us to learn and to grow. And so it may be my assignment to be tasked with going out to figure out what are our peer institutions doing that is already proven successful, or some things that they have learned, um, all the way to um, oh my gosh, understanding what some of the priorities are, and just getting the things. Sometimes I am in a space just to listen,
Mm.
hear what's not being said, or hear what's being said too much of. Sometimes I'm a catalyst where I come in and actually get it going. Like there's a new department we just launched. And so I did everything with a team. Of course, you can't do anything by yourself, but took the lead on actually from everything from the actual physical space, getting the space coordinated, getting the technology ordered, hiring, writing job descriptions, like everything. And now I've passed the baton to the person who runs that department, but I work behind the scene to make sure she has everything she needs.
So it should really be Nicci Superwoman Roach, really. We should be talking about here because it sounds like you're saving people every day.
Learn, and this is what I mean by being intentional. Now it makes sense. You have to be intentional because I'm always pouring out, but I love it's a blessing to be able to serve individuals here, even though I'm here, at an higher ed institution, a private higher ed institution, I'm still very much, I'm a believer. And to me, it's just still an extension of ministry for me to be a blessing to other people.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I have a question for you. What is just off this conversation now and women empowerment and stuff, what are sort of the demographics at university in terms of male and female and of color? Just roughly.
Yeah. So we have this year at this institution, St. Louis University, we're headquartered in St. Louis, but we do have a campus in Madrid. And
Yeah.
yeah, we do. Yeah. So we have this year, this is one of the largest um, diverse student when we talk about first time freshmen.
Okay.
And we're almost at close to 25%, which is huge for us. Now, when it comes
20% people of color.
yeah,
Wow.
an undergraduate, yeah.
Okay.
And so the in regards to gender, I don't have the exact because I
Okay.
know
What is it like 50-50, 40-30,
I
40-60?
would I would say it's what's happening because even not, in higher ed as a whole, there is there is there is a slow leak when it comes to men in seats.
Mm.
Women have, as we know, women were late to the game in regards to being able to come and be educated within the institution. And then, of course, we already know it was even later after that that people of color, African Americans, could come and get educated. But men have always been the dominant. Now, men are still the dominant when it comes to leadership within these institutions. However, women are now have surpassed men in the classroom. And when we talk about butts and seats, we are dominating. And right now there is actual research being conducted. In a conference I sat in even earlier today, we touched on that topic in regards to what are we going to do because we are losing our men.
That's so interesting. And are you saying men in general or men of color?
Both.
Oh, that's interesting.
But really men of color. Yeah.
And why would that be? Is that because they're choosing to do different careers?
Yeah.
Is
And
this because
I
do it
believe
make sense?
there's a huge push right now, and I think we've seen a lot of it. And this is more women, but women of color were the number one group that led this mad exodus or this great resignation that we're talking about and hearing about in the news in regards to people are leaving their jobs. They understand there's other options. And then entrepreneurship is just the thing to do now. And but you and I know, multiple streams of income. So you've got all these things going on. But people are leaning into it more in regards to, I know here in St. Louis, we have a huge startup incubator, Arch Grants. We have the Cortex. We have a whole village that does nothing but entrepreneurship, but they focus, there's one that's focused just on tech. But then you also have their challenges in regards to getting more people of color, male and female. But then I think, again, like you said, many are considering other options. And then, so we're looking at, how do we then meet them where they are? It's not that you want to come and sit and enjoy and take in and complete a 4-year college degree, as we know, 4 to 6 year. Then what do we do? And then in this region, we understand that there's a significant amount of working adults who have not completed their bachelor's degree. So we have a chamber of commerce who's actually looking into their information as well to see how do we begin to win over that population to get them back into the classroom to have degree completion.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to have a conversation with you offline about that because I went back to uni when I was 30.
So,
Or went for the first time at the age of 30.
and I'm a non-traditional also. I went
Okay.
back, I went for one semester after high school. After high school, that first semester, I'm like, I can work and get the same amount of money my parents, because I think we were probably that last generation that could really get a nice job with benefits. I'm talking like nice benefits without a degree. But as I began to move forward and progress, I realized I did get an opportunity, but then was turned away because I did not have a bachelor. That's when I went back. But I was 27, 28, going on 28.
Yeah, I had a similar situation. I was
Yeah,
told I wasn't going to get promoted without it. So,
exactly.
and I worked in investment banking at the time. Wow. So tell me, this is all really good stuff. So tell me, how did radio come into it? How did you become a radio host? And I didn't actually write it down, but the radio station is
KSTL,
KSTL
690 AM. KSTL 690.
690.
Yeah, Jubilee 690. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, I that job I mentioned in regards to I was what 27 ish, well 26 ish, and I had moved to New York
Okay.
because they had mentioned, okay, you've got to figure out, um, what you want to do if you want to change, and because at that time I was at our NBC affiliate, and I was working in the business office, but I was doing special projects in the newsroom. And the news director, Mike Shipley, at the time, mentions that, like, wow, you are dynamic, like coming up with content, coming up with stories. I was even helping out with one of our community shows, even did a couple appearances on that. And they wanted me to switch, but I didn't have that degree. So I ended up leaving. I quit the job because I needed to figure out, okay, I think I found my spot. I think I found my space, what I want to do. How am I going to do that? Because my parents, they were paying for college when I finished high school, but since I wanted to be grown, I had to figure it out on my own at 20 something years old. So I moved to New York. I ended up signing up for a college there. But before school even started, 9/11 tragedy happened. I was in that. I was a part of that. I was on the N train when the tunnel collapsed. I had just started working a temp job. I had just left Banco Popular in the financial district, which was where all that came through. And I ended up having to go home with someone from the company that I had. It was my first day. And because you couldn't get on the train, there was no communication, there was no cellular service, no nothing. And so her name's Ellen Holman. I have not talked to her in probably 10, 20 years. But she took me to her house and we watched news, we ate pizza, her whole family came, and around 2 something in the morning, they opened up the one train going each way, and 5 or 6 train. And so I ended up asking if they could drop me off so I could go back because I had a roommate wanting to make sure she was okay. Again, we couldn't communicate. Fast forward the next day, my roommate was okay, but fast forward the next day, I get up and I go to it was a cafe at 42nd and Broadway called Easy Cafe, Everything Cafe, and they used to host video shows in this cafe all the time on BET. But you can go in there and buy minutes. This is how old I'm telling my age. You could buy minutes to use the computer, and you load up this card because I didn't have a computer at the time.
Of course. If you had
I
a laptop, there's a luxury.
I went and got my points, and I did a mass email to let everybody know I was okay.
Okay.
My phone rings on the way walking out, and it's a conversation with a radio personality named Craig Black, Freeman Bosley Jr., who was our first Black mayor in St. Louis, who had just lost his second run. But then there was also Eric Rohn, who is the manager behind Said the Entertainer. He was there, and then Darian Phelps is the person I knew, who and they were all in St. Louis doing a radio show, live on the air, but they were on a commercial break, and they called, put me on speaker, and they're like, "How you doing? And what's going on?" And then all of a sudden they were like, "What's that? No, what's all that noise in the background?" I said, "That's ambulance transporting bodies and people as they find them from the tragedy." And so they were like, "Don't move. Don't move. Can we do an interview?" So they came back from the break. I go live on the air. That one interview live on the air led to, "Can you come back next week? Can you come back next week? Can you come back next week?" And then I end up coming on full time as a radio personality. And then I would give updates about what was happening. Then that turned into entertainment reporting, because there was so much happening in New York, and people trying to bring, hosting parties and stuff to bring the city back and get that warm and fuzzy feeling and calm everyone. And so it turned into entertainment, and then it turned into a segment every Sunday morning called Nic at 9.
Oh,
And every Sunday. I did that for like 8 years.
wow. That's great though. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And was it just general stories, or was it?
Yeah, most of it was entertainment, or I would learn about different people. Started sending me information that was happening in St. Louis, so I'm reporting what's happening in St. Louis but living in New York. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I just kind of drifted back for a minute because I was there too in 9/11. I actually worked at 7 World Trade Center, but on the day I was uptown at the Plaza Hotel, so I was far away from it, and I just, just had that flashback.
I understand.
But you see, out of something so negative, look at something positive that happened to you. Who would have known? Sometimes you just got to be in the right place.
Listen, that's why I say all things work together. Like you can't leave out, like all is all. Like we need all of that. I know I was talking to a day, before we came on, and we were talking about how, like you've got to have the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that, and it's we always, as he was saying, celebrate the good stuff, but it's really the trying times that really strengthen us, that really shows who we are, even to ourselves. And we can't take those moments for granted.
Yeah, and you need those bad moments so that you can look forward to the good ones as well.
Yeah.
And the learnings that we have, not necessarily bad or good, just what have we learned? What might we do differently or not do differently? Depends. Wow, that's so great. So Miss Radio Host, I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's talk about what I call love is love is love. Tell me a little bit about, when you got married. Was this when you were in New York? Did you meet your husband there? Did you meet him in St. Louis? Did you know each other?
So
that
I was living in St. Louis. He was not from St. Louis. And but we had a common denominator, which was higher ed. And because of a student who introduced him to some other people, who then brought him to church. It was church. I just happened to be speaking a couple of times, but then he also had at the church, my father just happened to be the pastor.
Okay.
So he and my father befriended each other and became very aware of each other. And so he realized, like, oh my gosh, my daughter is in higher ed. Maybe at some point you all connect. But usually, so since we have multiple services at the church, I had not seen him the few times he had visited, but there was one I actually subbed for someone to do church announcements. I was a part of the team, but it wasn't my Sunday. And so he got to see me doing my thing, doing church announcements. The announcing clerk. And so from there, it was yeah, it was just like, let's connect, and he was very new to the city, coming from the South and East Coast, after 20 something years. And so I'm like, so we began to hang out and do a number of different things and understand. And then for me at that time, I was, well, yeah, still very active in the community, um,
Wow.
and hosting different events. So he would come and support that kind of thing. And one thing led to another. And it's so funny. We went to a conference. We actually co-presented at a academic conference. And at that conference, he proposed, and I said, "Oh, I didn't even know we were dating."
Really?
Kidding. I'm
How long
not
had you known him then? I can't even say dating. How long had you known him?
here.
Okay. And you didn't realize you were dating? Are you sure you weren't just walking around with your blinders on?
No, because we both are grinders. We both are overachievers. And from that, yeah, it was no, because it was kind of like everything was just so neutral and cool, like just cool. No, like holding hands and all. Like we hadn't even made it to that point. That's what's so funny.
Wow.
Seriously,
So I assume you were shocked.
shocked to say the least. I still have the video, and that was what, almost 7 years ago.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
So, you know, about a year and a half ago, Ade and I talked about mature love. We actually did a meeting. Um,
love that topic.
yeah, Ade and I had a really lovely um, podcast interview about mature love. And it sounds a bit like that, what most of us imagine, running down the beach.
Yeah.
And then he's coming on his horse, and you're like, "Oh, I'm the one." And he comes,
No one.
yes, and he comes down and he puts a ring on your finger, and you're like, "Oh, I can't believe it's me," and all this stuff. We know that doesn't really happen for the most part. So, reality check, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. But but yours sounds kind of romantic, actually, in a way that it's not the way you think of romance, but to know that you've been adorned. I was going to say at a distance, but it wasn't at a distance, maybe for a distance for you, but to be adorned for a year and not really know that it was in that way. Um, I mean, when you look back, do you think there were some signals, but I missed it, or you just no signals?
It was the only signal was like, oh my gosh, we're hanging out a lot. But
Okay.
again, even in that, because everything was like either community engagement. We even actually we served and went on a missionary trip.
Wow.
Separate meaning, like the men had their own like area that they stayed in, and the females had their other area. And it was on an Indian reservation in South Dakota, and we went for a week with a huge group, and we gave back. We fed, we did different things, and that was our thing, which was with community service, church service. Um, it was just a lot of doing. It was a lot
Yeah.
of doing that was happening in regards to giving back, but not your typical like, oh, we're okay. Is this gonna be my boo? No, no, no. It
And
was not.
no smoke signals that you couldn't see.
No, and that's what I'm telling you. That's why I was like, huh? This is what you were thinking. This is what you were thinking.
So what did you say? Did you say, "Well, I think we should date first," or did you just say, "Sure"? Like, what did
I
you
said
what did
yes.
you do?
I said yes, but yes, let's date. Let's like officially, like we're engaged, but we're dating.
So how long were you engaged and dating for?
Oh my gosh. So that was probably it was less than a year.
Mm,
And before, because you said before getting married, it was
yes.
less than a year. And it was that way because we ended up having, after, sharing with my family, his family, going to meet his family, all that different stuff, um, ended up having the unexpected loss of his sister,
Oh.
who was 41 at the time, I believe. Totally unexpected. From that, actually, no, let me back up. It was less than a year, but my father passed unexpectedly. And in that, it was just a lot of movement in regards to getting things done, because my father was very influential in the community, was a pastor of a congregation of close to 2,000. So, we did a lot, and it was just a shock. It was a shock. And he had taken ill, but then he had bounced back, taken ill again, but then bounced back. And when he bounced back that last time, he got so much done. And it was almost like he knew, because everything was in order when he did transition. And so from that, it was just a matter of getting stuff done. I'm an only child. And so for me, it's, working with my mom, we got everything done, we got everything together, funeralized him, and then we get the call about his sister. Totally unexpected. I'm talking 30, no more than 45 days later, we get that call. He gets that call and he shares that. And so we go funeralize her. Still hasn't hit me that my dad is gone. We then move forward to coming back to St. Louis, and we're like, we need to take a moment and figure out what it is, that we need to be doing, and then get our head space and heart space together. But then he was like, no, you know what? We've had so much going on. We've had so much loss. Let's end the year on a high note. What could the high note be? It's like, it's already fall. We end up getting married like 2 months later.
Gosh.
Not a traditional wedding. And because we were always at the airport, where did we have our wedding? At the airport.
Really? I love that.
All over the news. It was in the newspaper, on the radio, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, can you believe this? And so we end up getting married. We didn't even send out real invitations. We didn't, because it was so fast. And he's like, no, I want to do that. And I said, you know what? Let's do it. So we did it. And I mean, it happened so fast. And so from there, we marry, we get under one roof, and, we do everything like this traditional way, get under the one roof. And then few months go by, few more months go by. Then we go back to visit his family for some holidays, but we come back and the temperature has changed, and we're talking, some months, maybe about 6 months or so later, 6 to 8 months later, after getting married. And his family is all, in the southeast, and he has this cough, this weird cough, and then it's like, oh, it's because of the, the seasons, the weather, because again, we were flying like all the time back and forth. And so we end up having a conversation. It's like few weeks later, that cough is still there. And I'm like, what is with this cough? You need to go see about that. Because it was a weird cough. It wasn't a regular cough. And the short of the long, he finally goes to urgent care on a Friday night. And they give him meds for bronchitis, but ask him to go and see his doctor as soon as possible. So he goes to see his doctor. I'm gonna fast forward through some details. We end up getting an appointment for some MRI and some other exams. Outcome ends up being lung cancer, small cell lung cancer. This is all back to back. And they're like, okay, wait a minute. You are a young Black vegetarian who's in the gym all the time. What you have, and this form of lung cancer that you have, is for Caucasian men, 65 years old or older, current or former smoker. You're none of that. So his doctor that we finally, because we had to end up getting a second opinion, because that first team that we met with literally wanted to start him like literally the next day after we got the information, and we're like bawling, crying. Like, what in the world? So we end up like, let's get a second opinion. We agree to a second opinion. He knows someone at Siteman, which is a well-known cancer research and caretaking unit here in St. Louis. Very, very amazing team that we had under the leadership of Dr. Wakar. And she ended up walking us through this whole process. And it was just, oh my God. So you're talking about love is love is love. And you talk about mature love. Talk about getting hit with all this death. You're young. You just got married. You're still trying to navigate this death, still trying to wrap up affairs. You get an announcement or diagnosis that you've got lung cancer, and the lung cancer spreads. This is a rapid one. And the first place it goes is to your brain. So we get the treatments. The treatments totally changes him. Had to end up getting, all these different forms of treatment. And so we go through this Alzheimer type of process. We go through this, not eating, like all these different phases. But we're young. We just got married. Like, this doesn't happen. This does not happen. And oh my gosh, and we're believers. So you have all of that. This is going through your head, like, oh my gosh, God, what is going on? And we get through it. We fight, we get through it, but then there's a, counseling that's woven into that, because we're literally changing. We're not the same two people we were like even 8 months ago saying I do. And so the counselor's even like, you all have had way too much to deal with so early. And, good that you've sought out. And, a lot of times, we'll hear people saying, oh, my therapist, my coach, it's a thing now, but I tell you, it is worth going, but it's worth you being present, not just for a fad, but to be present, because it's not so. And then those who are afraid of going or on the fence about going to seek out help, it's not about someone telling you what to do. It's about you getting it out. Because remember, we talked earlier about being empty or not being in the right space to give, or that peanut butter being spread too thin, or as our listeners mentioned about pouring from an empty cup.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
All this stuff going on. And it was a long, hard journey, because I was also working. I was working for 1 year. He wasn't able to. He wasn't. And then my job also included lots of travel. So every now and then that had to be changed. I had to do the whole FMLA thing. I was there, all that treatment every day for months. Even at night, through the 24-hour care where you had to get even the fluids and everything. A lot. And then I had started a new job. And then Ferguson happened. And I had to lead those efforts with Ferguson at my former institution. So I'm having to do that, trying to learn a new job, be a caretaker, helping to support my mom, because remember, I'm an only child, also doing all my other work. And then I had launched a nonprofit a little bit before all of this too, where I host a conference for women of color and culture at our Four Seasons location. So I was organizing all of that. So all of this stuff going on. And you see what I mean by intentionality. Like, you don't know someone's story and the why behind some of the things that they may do that may seem a little off to you. But I've learned, give people, let them live life through their lens. And if that's their lived experience, let it be. It doesn't have to be yours. It's not supposed to be yours. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we, as you were saying, we have what we think it is, or what society has deemed proper, correct, the point of entry.
Absolutely.
everything. I don't care what it is, whether it's marriage, whether it's dealing with death, whether it's dealing with caretaking, whatever you fill in that blank, you have to, until you walk that line, until you walk in that space, you learn who you are, you learn who you're not, you learn who people are, you learn who people are not. You learn what you need. And that's one lesson I've learned, is not to be afraid to ask for help. That's the biggest lesson I've learned out of all of this. One of the lessons. But then also that mature love you mentioned. Because it was, when I tell you it was not easy, and then you're seeing someone literally not even know themselves in front of you, that hurts. So you're talking about going into other rooms, having to cry because you don't want to cry in front of them. You're talking about having conversations with the doctor outside of the room or before you get there, because you don't want to have that conversation while you're there. It's just too much, that on top of that, on top of that. So we get through all that tough, rough, oh my God. And then, but fast forward, we have about maybe 4 years of ups, some highs and some lows, and then he gets well. And we had tough times. Let's be honest, we had tough times. Again, we were changing, we were growing, we hadn't even established roots yet, and having to deal and navigate all of this. And then I'm like, you know what, we hit a turbulent point to where we're like, okay, we need to separate. But we didn't separate initially, because you don't know who the other person is, and you're trying to navigate all of this. And so we end up I'm like, we're gonna get you back to health. That's the only priority. Anything else, shelve it.
Yeah.
God allowed that to happen. He got better, doing well, got back into the workspace with his last space of servanthood over at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. And he absolutely was just in awe. He had finally made it to that role he wanted. And I was so proud. So we were separated. So we decided to separate, and he ended up moving. But then he's like, you should still come. And so I was like, we'll see. Because I had just started actually another consulting company. And because I took time off, I took 2 years off once he got back up on his feet. But I planned for it. I tell people, stop just leaving these jobs, saying I'm fed up and leaving. No, you got to be smart. These jobs we need benefits and we need to keep lights on. I did not walk out. I planned and paid off stuff, discussed it. And then because I had got a promotion into a C-suite role, my spouse was very, very adamant about, why would you want to walk away from that? But I said, no, it's time. And he's like, but you've made it. I said, there is no make it. Life is a journey. There is no make it. We just keep going. And so fast forward, he goes to Kentucky. And so we end up deciding, not wanting to, but we thought it would be best to divorce. And so when we began that process, what's interesting, we end up becoming closer, back to mature love. Talk about love is love is love. And there's not one person that I've talked to over the past 6 months that's like, oh my God, he would not shut up about you. Because it was going back to, even as leaders, it's in the turbulent times that what is real is proven.
Yeah.
What is sure is proven, is validated in those tough times. And I mean, it's no different than, I use a lot of analogies, but you think about the washing machine. You have the washing machine, you throw all that dirty stuff in there, you put in that little liquid, whatever that mystery stuff is, and then you turn it on, but it's turbulence, right? To get the stuff out. It gets the stuff out, it gets it clean, it gets it right, it gets it proper for us to use again, right?
Yeah, it's
so
true.
way with life, we have those different things that come to shake us up, to get out, but to get to the good stuff, so that you can show up again, and be clean and be ready. Um, yeah. So fast forward a few more months. So this summer, actually, it's been just 4 months, 5 months, 5 months. He passed. But during that short amount of time that we end up filing for divorce and it being completed, which was a short past, it wasn't even a year of that process being completed. But in that process, counseling is still happening. I still agreed to be a caretaker. I still agreed to be on point in regards to on call. Some things he didn't give me a choice, but I was okay with that. And his thing was, no matter what, we're going to be friends. But what I've learned is that no matter, there's, the legal part of things, and there's the legalities, and there's the documentation of things, but you cannot erase or get rid of what is and what's true. And I'm gonna, I'll be honest, I didn't even realize how grounded we had become until after.
Wow.
Transitioned. And what's crazy, so we had planned for me to come we were gonna spend time in March of this year. And so in our planning of time for March, COVID hit. COVID was still very much real. And because he could not get certain treatments for myself, we ended up opting for June. I said, well, let me, because yes, I'm going to come. But I need to make sure that I'm good, because I would be just torn apart. I bring COVID with me, because I've lost a couple family members. And so it's real. And I've got a host of friends who have been ill across the spectrum, meaning light, mild symptoms, all the way to on a ventilator. And so I took that very serious. So June was the month, this June, scheduled to go down, and ended up he got me down there in June anyway, but not for the reasons we thought. He did transition, like I said, in June. Still processing all of this. And when people say, some people are like, oh my gosh, how did you guys even come to the point to where you continue to work together, to still be a team, to still love on each other, even without, after all of, that had happened in that short amount of time.
Yes.
It comes down to, again, that mature love, but it comes from an unselfish place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it comes down to, I think if I was in a wretched place, I can't give what I don't have. But I had taken time already to even get myself together. And he did the same. So we ended up doing even joint counseling, but then we did separate. Because there were things and again, it wasn't to wag the finger like I told you, even though there was a couple things I said I told you I was right. It's been yes, true friendship. So the friendship is, and that's what he asked for. That's what he asked. He asked for true friendship, and he was like, it doesn't matter whatever happens, we're gonna be good. We made an agreement that we were still going to be fine. But what's funny is we were finer after the everything was confirmed.
And everything else.
And it was, and what's crazy, the distance made us communicate on a whole different, transparent way. And I know for some people that doesn't work. For us, it did, because I was still, appointments. I'm still on the phone. I'm still getting speakerphoned in, and we're still doing like, okay, what do you need to do for this month? That kind of thing. Although, a few months before he transitioned, there were some things that he didn't tell me, And I told him I'd get him. I've already had a little conversation. I said, I'm gonna bump you in the forehead when I see him again, because I will see him again. But it has grown me up and matured me in ways I know I haven't even explored yet. But it
Yeah.
also allowed me to understand real love. And I don't mean like in intimacy, and I don't mean like the little kissy stuff, but I'm talking about for real. Like, I'm down for you. Like, you
Yeah.
got me so much on your shoulders. Because my thing is, as you're, again, like I said, as you're working with someone, and it's the same like anyone who's caretaking, even if it's just like your mom or your father or your sibling, to see a person as you knew them change right before your eyes, you spend many nights crying
Yeah.
because you want to fix it. You want to fix it. You can't fix it.
And don't you think that's part of it? It's this knowing that there's nothing you can do except watch, accept, and love.
In love. And so yes, that's what you can do. That's all you can do. And it's like, but then it feels like not enough.
Oh, of course not,
It's just,
especially if you're a doer, especially if you're somebody who's used to giving, as you always are, used to giving of yourself.
and figuring it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, not this time. You don't get to figure it out. And so you talk about leaning and depending on God in a new way, just having a new level of dependency. Um, yeah, like it's almost unexplainable, like, because you can't do anything but love. So you tap into places and you do things, yeah, from a place, and you too have to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
in that space in regards to, hey, you know what, you laying on the floor today, I'm gonna lay right next to you. Okay, we're just gonna get through this today. You're in pain, we're gonna sit here, and yeah, I could be doing a whole bunch of other things, but all that's on pause right now, because back to understanding like what is sure, what is true, you get to see a lot of yourself, and how I'm able to even sit here and have this conversation. I'm like fighting. I'm like, don't let my mascara fighting these tears. But those of you who have people around you that you love, like,
Yeah.
love them, because they are like, when they say that you have birth date, end date, transition date, we don't get a do-over.
Yeah.
You don't get to do this over. And with that, you learn that everything matters, and how to be present and what that really, really means. Being present and also giving of yourself. I know even for me, it brings my heart joy knowing that when he transitioned, he was in a good space. We were in a great space. And with that, my thing is to continue that light. He was truly one to give back, truly one that loved to make the difference. Never met a stranger, would take his last. And I've experienced it to where I'm like, dude, we need that money to keep these lights on. Give it the last to help someone else in need. And it's like, man, thank you for showing me how to live unselfishly. Thank you for showing me thank you for demonstrating servant leadership right before my eyes. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve you and to slow down.
Yeah.
That's another thing, slow down, because you don't get this time back. And it does matter, yeah, what we do in between those dates, but make it matter. A lot of us are busy, but are you really producing? It's two different things.
And are you busy doing things that really aren't important, but you're making important?
Yeah.
Or in your mind, you feel it's important, or everybody else is saying it's important,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
And,
really
and I'm
important.
not even talking about stuff that's public. I'm talking about even under your same roof, like so many people, because of COVID, I've had a number of people like, oh my gosh, I don't even know, who I'm living with because we've been so busy. So you've been stuck with this person for 18, 24 months almost. And you're having to learn people all over again. Or like, dang, I didn't know you don't like that. I didn't know you didn't like that. We're busy. We're two ships passing.
Mm.
And but I learned how to slow down in a different way, still be productive and still pursue what it is God has positioned me to do, but also keeping my hands and my heart open, and my mind open to what is possible. And that's one thing I've learned also from serving my spouse in regards to anything is possible. And one thing that he was really pursuing, working with within higher ed, he ended up being an endowed professor for an honors program, first person of color. And then he was a black male, to where they were like, oh my gosh, we need more black male. So he was on a high, but he was struggling, and we would talk a lot of times because he was struggling, because did I really earn this? Do I really deserve this? So it allowed us again to be vulnerable in different ways that we had never been, because we were just rock stars. So we thought, but it's amazing how God will set you up to, you want to be a rock star? I'm going to help you be a real rock star. And so we end up being rocks for each other. And now my thing is, how do I be a rock and pass these lessons on to others?
Well, Nicci, thank you for demonstrating to us that love is love is love, that you really know what love is, and that, forget about all the small stuff, when it comes down to the action and the action of love, you definitely showed us tonight how we can learn from you and get strength from what you've shared with us. So thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Sharing your journey with us. And I was going to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to leave with the audience? But I think you said it there, spending that time, making it count, making sure it's important, and that sometimes the things that are really important are the small things as well. It's not the big things at all.
Exactly. And you learn that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, Nicci, you've been really, really a beautiful breath of fresh air. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about all the other wonderful things you're doing. You've got a list as long as my arm. So we'll have to have you on the show again to tell us more about the other things that you share with us. But good to see you smiling after something that's happened so recently, and to be kind enough to share that with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. It's truly been a joy spot for me to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll see you back in the green room, Nicci. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. So guys, wasn't that a tingling, sensational story? Oh my goodness. I mean, that is truly the importance and the epitome of love, which she just shared with us. I think that was an amazing, amazing story. So I'm going to put her email in the group if you need to find out more or want to learn more about what Nicci's doing, because she's doing a lot, or maybe even being a guest on her show. She's the radio host of St. Louis. Definitely reach out to her. You can reach her on IG at Nicci Roach is one of her addresses, and on Facebook at Nicci Roach too. So guys, thank you so much for joining us on season 4 of The Joy of Connection. We'll be back in January with more juicy, good topics to discuss. And I just have to say to you, as usual, be joyful, be connected, and shine your light. Good night. See you in 2022.